All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. Now, today's featured book is How the Leopard Got His Claws. This one right here. This powerful African fable explores how pride, division, and misunderstanding can destroy an entire village. It is the perfect story for this week's topic, which is unity, because it reminds us that working together is the only way to solve all of our problems. In today's reviews, I'll be sharing the glows, what I think was done well. Spoiler alert, there are so many of them. The grows, what I think could have been done differently. Who this book is for, how to utilize it as a resource to have a more meaningful conversation with your little, and more, all in this episode of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. You ready? Let's grow. Summary in my own words. This is the story of King Leopard, who is such a villager, right? He is all about community, and that ends up getting threatened by a dog who is not about community and who is very individual. He kind of marches to the beat of his own drums, okay? And so, in short, what ends up happening is the leopard and the dog go head to head, and the community ultimately votes for the dog to be their new leader, even though he shows no leadership qualities outside of violence. So this book explores everything from what it means to have community conflict, what it means to be strong or good at something, to be better at something, values we hold near and dear, because in the story, the dog didn't have good communication skills. He didn't care much about community, but he was violent and he was extremely strong. And that's what the community prioritized. So there's even some of that of like, what do we think is most important as a society? And there's some revenge. And so the book is definitely layered, but overall, it is a story of what happens when community decides to break up and to be divisive instead of finding ways to better the community and the village as a whole. The take-home message and the target age group. So the take-home message is truly the importance of working together, of not being so fearful that you refuse to work together. So there hit a point in the story that I think was extremely powerful. And that point was, in the book, the dog was the only one with sharp claws and sharp teeth. Everybody else in the forest did not have sharp teeth or sharp claws at that time, okay? Because of that, when a storm came, the dog essentially attacked the leopard to get what it was that he wanted. And when the leopard was like, look, I lost the fight with the dog individually because I'm not strong enough, but if we were to come together, we can get him to act right on behalf of our village as a whole. The animals were like, no. And since he's stronger than you, we want him to be our king, even though he showed no leadership qualities whatsoever and used these intimidation and fear tactics to control. And so for me, that was the most powerful part, because so often in society, we will follow a rule, a law, a order, a what have you, just because they appear to be stronger or tougher or we're scared. And it was really this kind of stopping point where you could hold these uncomfortable conversations with your children about what it means to do the right thing, even if somebody in power is saying otherwise. How do you critically think for yourself? Because a lot of the animals were just going along with what the new rules were, right? Without really thinking about how this is going to affect or impact them because they were scared. This book is so very layered. There is a read aloud of the book, which I definitely encourage you to go listen to the read aloud, purchase the book, add it to your library, but then come back here to better understand that the message, there are multiple messages, but the one that I found the most valuable is truly the importance of working together and critically thinking. Does this make sense to me? Does this feel good? Does this feel right? Question the information that's being presented and then work with your neighbors to be able to get past whatever that hardship might be. That for me was some of the most valuable points of the story. In terms of age group, the book is a little scary. I'm not even gonna, I ain't even gonna lie to you. There are definitely some points in the book where I'm like, oh, they getting serious about this fighting. So with that said, I mean, kids they'll be okay. I would put it at 6 years old and up to really hold like a robust conversation. And I feel like 6-year-old neurotypical children will understand what's going on in the story. And you could easily take parts of this story and apply it to wars that we've had, social justice issues that have taken place. You can definitely take this story and apply it to life events. But I would put it at about 6 years old and up. Who this book is for and who should add it to their library: anybody who is interested in social justice work, anybody who has a passion for social justice work, humanitarian work, community work, unity work, anything of that realm, because that's really what the book is showing us. The book is very clearly depicting what it means when we divide. Okay, what it means to be separated. It even goes as far as to show the intentionality of the division that took place within the forest. Oh yeah, Chinua did his thing with this book, okay? As did John. They did a great job at truly showing kind of these different layers of what happens when we go separate ways, when everybody is out for themselves. What happens when we lead in fear instead of community? So this book is a great gift for even adults who do that type of work, who do that sort of social justice, community building work. But it's also a great book for children. Y'all know what I'm about to say. It's a staple book. A staple book meaning there isn't a library that should not add this story to their library, because the animals are animals in the book, but can easily be applied to situations and to real life people. So it's just a good resource to have. My glows. There are so many glows. I think it's very difficult to share messages like this in a way that children can understand. So my first glow is just how well the story is written. It is the story of a king. Every child understands kind of kings and queens and how he ends up losing his throne and then regaining it. It talks about divisiveness and then unity. It talks about fear and gathering. One of my glows is the way in which the story is told. I also really like the use of animals to tell the story, because so often we get caught up in race or sometimes even gender or what the characters look like. But when you are sharing a hard message, which this one, it's a hard message. It's a message of what it means for us to separate and how that's damaging to all involved. When you're sharing a message that is that hard, using animals to deliver that message can be powerful. And this book did that extremely well. My last glow would be the final page of the back of the story, where it gives kind of like this wrap up of what it means to be unified. The very last page reads, "Today the animals are no longer friends but enemies. The strong among them attack and kill the weak. The leopard, full of anger, eats up anyone he can lay his claws on, and the hunter, led by the dog, goes to the forest from time to time and kills any animals he can find. Perhaps someday the animals will make peace among themselves and live together. Then at last they will be able to keep away the hunter, who is their common enemy." That's so poetically written. That page alone is one of my glows, because it really does sum up the story, but also our world and our society. We're so often thinking about ourselves, my family, me, my. And as long as we don't unify, well, we can't really get to the core of the issues at play. And so for me, that final page and that wrap up was a glow in and of itself. Pros, or what I think could have been done better. So this book was written based off of, or at least in mind of, the 1960 Nigerian Nigerian Civil War. It is the result of that war, and it is this way to express the need for us to come together. And I wish that would have been included in the book. Because I do so much research on the books that I choose, I found out that that's what inspired this fable. And I really wish there would have been something talking about that Nigerian Civil War so that children can understand firsthand how this applies to that situation and how it applies to so many of the wars and the experiences that we deal with today. So it is a desire of mine, but overall, the book itself, that's more of an addition, right? Than a grow. But in terms of what was presented, I do not have a grow. I feel like the book was very well done. How do you use this book to have a more robust discussion with your child? Definitely opening up of like what turned, right? And so why do you think the animals were so peaceful at the beginning of the story versus the end of the story when they were miserable? What took place? And you're probably going to give very matter-of-fact basic answers, which I would encourage you to push against. So if they say something like, oh, well, the dog was being mean, that's not quite what we're looking for. What we're really looking for is for children to explore what happens when we break up community. What happens when we refuse to work together? Was it right for the animals to say that the dog couldn't come in because he didn't help build? Could that have changed things? Was it right for the animals to say that the dog is now the king because he's stronger? Really ask questions that are going to get your child's brain flowing. Here are some examples of some. Whenever you're using a book as a resource, you want to hold a conversation, right? So here are some sample questions, but you definitely want to hold a conversation. So for one, what does it mean to be unified? Like, where in this book were the animals unified and together, and where were they separate? What could the leopard have done instead of deciding to destroy the house at the end when he became king again? Was there another way for him to kind of take back the village without being so bitter and so angry and feeling so shaded? Which brings me into the question of forgiveness. Who should have forgave? At what point should somebody have been the bigger animal and said, you know what, y'all made a mistake, but it's okay. We're going to keep going. And so really having questions like that are going to encourage dialogue and discussion is an excellent way to utilize this book as a resource. And if you're in the classroom, I would definitely hold classroom discussions. I would bring that into whatever war you might be talking about or whatever social issue might be going on in your class. This book is extremely flexible in the sense that it can be applied to so many situations. So again, if you haven't done so, go look at the read aloud, or better yet, just purchase the book because it's definitely a great one to have. My final thoughts. How the Leopard Got His Claws is a timeless story about strength, justice, and the cost of losing community. It really does remind us that true power should never be out of like fear or anger or domination, but instead listening to the village as a whole and coming up with a plan that works for everybody. So since we're talking about unity this week and how to come together, this is definitely an excellent resource. Be sure to check out our other read aloud for this week, as well as the behind the book reviews. And then on Friday, the Teacher Lady Speaks episode, where I really wrap up how to get your family more embedded in community and unity work so that, well, we can have a better society, okay? And I would like to bring your attention to our Pay It Forward program, which is a really straightforward initiative through the Empathy Library. This program allows us to get books to children in need free to them. Okay, so go on the website, learn about it, donate what you can. I thank you. I appreciate you. Until next time, I thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, and for being part of this book-loving community. You make sure to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.